Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You're watching Out Here in the Redwoods. I'm your host, Denise Riles. Come out wherever you are. And for everyone here, aloha means hello and goodbye. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Arnie Klein, candidate for district attorney with us. Aloha!
Thank you, Denise. Your energy is
You're
wonderful.
welcome.
Golly.
You gave me your card here, Mr. Klein, Arnie.
I did.
It says, elect Arnie Klein, 214, district attorney, because experience matters.
That just means I have a lot of gray hair, Denise. That's what experience is all about, you know? Nothing teaches like experience, nothing humbles like experience. Experience is what older folk have.
Yeah.
It's kind of wasted on the older folk, mind you, but, you know, that's what it is.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Arnie.
All right.
You have been, and I thank you for coming here, you have been on forum after forum, debate. It must be grueling on you. And you don't get a chance in those kinds of situations to tell people a little bit about you. You're always on, you're always fighting. And I caught you at the end of the forum for the League of Women Voters. You were hot, man. You got right up there, you were hot. Took my breath away for a second. So,
Oh, God, if only we were in high school now.
I
But
know.
we're
So let's-
not. I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
so
real
let's-
shame. That's what I'm talking about, wisdom and experience.
Yeah.
It's for people like us,
Yeah.
you know? But I'll tell you some about me. Of course, you know, forums, you're limited to 1 minute, maybe two.
Yeah.
That's why I love to come on your show, by the way.
Right.
It's been such a pleasure meeting you so
Thank
far. You're
you.
so high energy.
Thank you.
That even if I dragged in here after those forum after forum, you'd prop me up and I'd look almost like normal and human, right?
You
So about myself is the reason I'm running is I want people to feel safe. I want justice to feel like justice. I want people to be able to walk out of their houses and feel that they're not going to be accosted. And while they're out of their houses, not be afraid someone's going to break in their house.
Yeah.
You know? And about myself, I'll tell you, I'm kind of like from really humble roots. I'd go to school and my mother would say, if anybody asks you about the hole in your pants, just tell them you just fell down. And that was normal to me, and I clawed my way up, and I am where I am. But
And where did you grow up, by the way?
oh, where it was really cold, Buffalo, New York.
You're a
But-
New Yorker originally.
Well, it's
when did you come to
420
Humboldt County?
420 miles from New York, but here's the deal. You know, in Buffalo, when it's snowing and raining, you think that's normality, except in the movie pictures, they'd have a palm tree. But you knew that was only in the movies, you'd never see one. And so you are what you are, where you are.
Right.
And when I left Buffalo, it was after going to school and learning that sometimes you had to move in a vertical and horizontal direction in order to grow. Because otherwise, I'd be Benny Klein, the kosher butcher's son, the rest of my life. So I went to San Francisco.
Okay.
And then I became many different things.
All right.
But most important, though, I got to meet people and expand my mind
Nice.
and get energized. And I'll tell you what was nice about my law school. It was a very liberal law school.
Okay.
And I thought I was a liberal till I got there. I wore a sport coat my first day there, and everybody made fun of me, you know? And turns out, though, although I've had some undiagnosed educational issues, such as I'm dyslexic. So
Really?
I didn't learn the alphabet until my senior year in high school. My guidance counselor told me that I should never go to college. I'm not college material. I didn't learn the months of the year to my first year of law school. And
Really?
it's been a real challenge. I had to claw my way up. But after my first year of law school, I was #1 in the class. I got a full scholarship. I was on the council, you know, the student council. It was like I was reborn. And it
Congratulations.
was cool, and I got to work with the public defender, and I met my first murderer. Most people don't meet a murderer. This guy, we went out to his house. He was a hoarder, I thought, and we were looking for a gun used in a murder case.
Oh, my
And his
goodness.
whole house in Chinatown, it was all full of all kind of stuff. Then I realized later on, as I got educated in the area of criminal law, he was a fence. That's why, you know, he'd receive property and he'd give out drugs or what have you.
Oh, my.
But I'll never forget meeting my first murderer. When's the first candidate you've ever met A DA candidate. Who's the very first one?
DA candidate?
Yeah.
Myself? Elon Furpo, I'll be honest.
Oh, well, this is going to be a change.
It
This
is
gonna
a
be
change.
a real change of
It
pace.
is a change. But
Yes.
tell me, what was that first day in court? What was that like
For
you?
me?
Yeah, for you.
Oh, you're going to love this. You're just going to love this. So I passed the bar,
Yeah.
right? And I'm waiting for a job. And I had a wife at the time, a young wife who was a dental hygienist. And her grandfather hit somebody with a car, actually another vehicle, and he ran away. Well, they caught him, right? So they hired me, the grandparents, it turns out, for a pair of shoes. But they were nice shoes, mind you.
Yeah.
So I go to court, I don't even know where to sit or what have you, and they call the case, and someone's pushing me in. We go back in chambers, and then the judge says, well, I see that you've entered into a civil compromise. He said, tell me about that. We don't normally do that here. And I said, well, Judge, my wife's grandfather. He says, okay, not a problem. We'll give it to you. And then I learned that's how justice works down in L.A. back in the day, see? So I walked out. I was a big winner with a new pair of shoes. And that's my first experience in a court of law.
Wow.
As a prosecutor,
Yeah.
this was great. When you get hired in L.A., what they do is they send you to a different court every week. It's called being on the run. So you get exposed to a lot of judges and a lot of forums, right? Well, one place they sent me, back then, you had a jury trial for traffic speeding, right? Well, I was more nervous than the people I was prosecuting. You know, I'd get up there and it was really shaky. And one guy got up, he said, well, it was another red car and the officer might have gotten it mixed up. And we used to do 3 juries at a time. So because it was traffic, you know,
Right.
they'd go back. So they gave me 2 out of 3 and I lost the guy who said the cop made a mistake. Big deal. But it was an experience. And every day that I continued to do this, I would grow.
Right.
And my biggest fear in life
Right.
was talking to people, whether it be large crowds or small crowds. Here's what I tell young lawyers now. If you want to learn how to voir dire people, talk to strangers in a jury, right?
Yeah.
When you're in the elevator, just turn to the person next and say, hey, how's your day going? Most people can't do that. I'll bet you know that already, Denise. Isn't that true? It's probably something that actresses like yourself go through in the learning process.
It is a learning process.
Yeah.
It is.
So that's kind of like me. I'll tell you what this will give you some insight into me. This is, forget the campaign stuff, right?
Yeah.
I walk into a courtroom, I go, Arnie Klein for the people. I don't go Arnie Klein for the district attorney's office or Arnie Klein for the cops or Arnie Klein for the board of supervisors, Arnie Klein for the people.
Because that's what we're electing, our lawyer.
Oh, see, you're
right?
way ahead of me, even with the New York accent.
Well,
Our
yeah,
lawyer,
I had to
right?
say lawyer for
By
you
the
from
way,
Buffalo.
how many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb?
3.
Nope, nobody knows. It's never been done. That's pretty good. But so the whole point is I'm a grassroots candidate, right,
Yeah.
with very little money. So I just want people to know that when I go in there and I say for the people, I'm just like them. And that's all I want to do is represent the people and bring justice back to Humboldt County.
Okay.
Right now it's a run amok.
Yeah, that was my next question. You worked with Paul Gallegos for a while.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I'd like to tell people that the only wise decision I ever saw him make is when he hired me. The only wise decision. After that, it was just muck and mire the whole way.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's just my opinion.
Well, not everybody's bad. I'll give you that. He
Well,
probably did some good
He's
stuff
a
and stuff.
good, no, I wouldn't even say that. I'll tell you what, though, he's a good father, a good husband.
Yeah.
He's raising children. He has a big heart, but he had never had any experience as in prosecutorial management or even being a prosecutor.
Right.
So when he came in, all he had to do was listen to people, but the people he listened to were the wrong people. And what he did is he had poor relationships with the police agencies here in Humboldt County. What he did is he made his own. Where he had only 4 DA investigators, now there's like 9 or 12. Pick your
Right.
number, right? And then there were 19 DAs when he came in. Now they're down to 10 or 12. Pick your number. They're never there anyway,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So then he turned this police force he built up into like a SWAT team and a seizure team, and they'd go out and do the other police agencies' business by doing raids, taking marijuana, but the most important part was getting the money. And if they came back with just marijuana and not the money, it was a failure. And you know what they used that money for? They used that money to buy more weapons than the U.S. Army needs to invade Syria. They got a whole stockpile. And you know what else they did?
What?
They put one of those, this a secret one, up on top of the courthouse roof, just so the chief investigator could call up London in the morning and go, hey, what's the weather there for? And that's how they spent your money. They did not spend the money to correct the streams that had been diverted.
Wow.
They did not use that money to clean up diesel oil that had been spilled in the ground and soaked into our water system. They did not use the money to clear up pesticides or rat poison. They didn't use the money to restore the environment, which is kind of like what I would like to do.
Yeah.
They used the money to buy new uniforms and more guns.
Wow. And that we don't need. I have to
I don't
say,
need it, and I'm running for
It kind
DA.
of scares me. I see on the internet, you know, new sheriff department, new police getting a tank.
Isn't that
Really?
poppycock a tank? Well, there was a chief in L.A. when I was a DA. He wanted a submarine. I think that was Chief Parker. I'm not sure. What happens is, it's like judges. It's judgeitis. They put on a robe and they tell a joke, and they don't realize you are laughing because they're wearing that black robe, not because they're funny. The same thing for a sheriff or a police chief, right? They think, because they're seeing the world now through their eyes, that they are the line between civil unrest and peace in our community. That's not especially true. So what could make more sense to them than having a tank, right? And if they could in Humboldt, I'm sure they'd want a submarine. I know the chief DA investigator, Mike Hislop, he wanted to get one of those big mobile scientific crime things. That's how he wanted to spend the money. And you know what he said at the Board of Supervisors meeting? The people don't trust the police, but they could come into our trailer and talk to us and not feel intimidated. That's how everything gets spun around here. No one's honest. No one's telling the people what's happening.
And you're honest.
Oh, man, to a fault.
Really?
Yeah, and I piss a lot of people off, I'm so honest. You know, I don't make a lot of friends when it comes to law enforcement. That's not my job. I don't want a partner. I want somebody that when they come in, my door will be open. You have a complaint, come in, talk to me. You're an officer, a
Right.
sheriff, a chief. I don't care what you are.
Yeah.
But also that door's open for the people, because
Right.
that's who I'm supposed to represent,
Right.
the people. If you can catch me in a lie, I'll let you whip me. You got one? No, really. No, just you and me, though. My fiance, by the way, we just got engaged.
Hi, Kitty.
Hi, Kitty. She can't be there when you're whipping me. But,
Right,
all
okay, then.
So long as you know.
But I did like what you said, that you wanted people to feel safe.
And you have to change the whole culture, the whole environment. Do you
Yeah.
remember, and I hate the campaign over somebody's tragic death, the chef who was coming out of...
Yeah.
All right. And then he was assailed by 3 people in Arcadia, and somebody stabbed him in the heart.
Yeah.
Alon Firple tried to give that case away for 2 years. 2 years. And what she said is, she put it on her personal Facebook and her political Facebook. She said, oh, you know, he's the one who charged at them, and he actually just fell on the knife, and she took a deal for involuntary manslaughter without use of a weapon. Now, that's just insane if you have any experience. She doesn't know better. She only has 4.5 years experience. She's never tried a murder case in her life. She's trying one now. Never. So how could you know what a fair offer is? The family retains me. They come out from Minnesota. They're flying out. Kitty saves my life because the 2 days before I'm in the probation department, I collapse. I think it's muscle spasms. We go home. I say, just lay me on the floor because I'm a real tough guy. Nothing can hurt me, right? Well, she happened to notice because she's a doctor that I was turning blue. I turned into septic shock. I could have been dead. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
She said, you're going in an ambulance right now. I said, no, no, no. And that's all I remember except one guy carrying me out in a stretcher. Well, of course, there had to be 2 because one guy I'd be on the sidewalk, right? And then they took me to the hospital. They had all kinds of things stuck in my arms and all, antibiotics. I had a blood bacterial invasion throughout my bloodstream and my prostate, and I came that close to dying. But 2 days later, the family's coming out. They're going to hear this thing. The family's retained me for an impact statement. Victim, that's the only standing I would have. But what I did is slid in there a motion to vacate the plea because it's not a plea until it's accepted by the court, and it has to be in the interest of justice that the judge will do that.
Right.
I listed a whole bunch of reasons why the prosecutor in this case did not follow the law, right? Certain sections she had to do, whatever, and I had the transcript of the plea, everything, right? So now I talked 3 doctors and they're looking the other way, 3 nurses and they're looking the other way. Kitty comes in. They're going to let this happen because she's a doctor. She comes in with a wheelchair. They wheel me out in my hospital garb. We take me to my house. We put on my lawyer costume. Then we take me to meet the 8 victims because their relatives have just been murdered, their sons. And okay.
Right.
All right. Go to another house. I tell them exactly what order we're going to do and what to say. They didn't know, though, if they did have to speak to the court, we would have lost because that meant the court would accept the plea. And the only time you give a victim impact is at sentencing. So then we come down with the family meeting. We wheel me into court. And by this time, I'm looking a little bit white, but I haven't passed out yet. and we put me into court, and I'm sitting there, and I'm listening to all these attorneys rant and rave about how I've made it political and all this stuff, right?
Right.
And to me, in my mind, because it also affects your mind when you have this bacterial infection, I thought, well, what the heck? This would be my last noble hurrah. It had to be worth it, right? I don't know about it now, but I didn't die, so it was worth it. The judge rules in our favor. We then wheel me back to my place. We take off my lawyer costume. Then we wheel me back in the hospital, and there I stayed for 5 more days.
Oh, my goodness.
So I have a lot, when you were asking me going from forum to forum to forum and these interviews and all that, how can I do it? Well, it's really hard in a way because I'll have periods of lucidity and periods of energy, and it's starting to come back a lot, but it's going to take a while to fully recover. But it was worth it, and the family went back, and we'll see what justice really is. All right.
So why are you in the ring for this district attorney?
I wanted my voice to be heard. Here's what I saw Paul turn a perfectly functioning office into a 3-legged racehorse. Really, I was going round and round. I was never going to cross that finish line. And here's what I'd be home because I had left that office. You want to know why I left? I'll tell you why I left. All right, they put me on a grant position. It was called auto insurance fraud. Here's the danger in these grant positions. They grab these DAs and they just use them online for other things and they collect the money. In this particular case, though, the auto insurance fraud, they wanted me to go to Del Norte in Trinity. Fine, okay. So I go to Del Norte a couple times and I look at the grant. The grant didn't pay the DA, and only the DA investigator, who was the last chief before Hislop, right? Jim, I can't recall his name right now, a really nice guy, but he was the one making the money, not the DA. So you were using taxpayer dollars to send me to Del Norte, and that was like, that was baloney. All right, baloney. So I go to the powers that be, and I say, hey, look, this isn't right. This is fraud on the taxpayers. They said, what do you care? You're going to get paid anyway. So I gave them.
They actually said that?
Swear, I'd pass any lie detector test or pal you give me.
All right? My God.
They said that to me.
Really?
What do you care? You're going to get paid anyway. And I resigned 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a good reason.
No, it was. Plus my retirement vested.
Okay.
I mean, we got to put it in perspective. I didn't want to sleep under a bridge, right?
Well, of course.
All right. And so now that I've deviated, are you saying, why did I run? Here's why I'm running. I read in the paper, Paul took away, in the first day of jury selection in a murder case, he fired the DA, Ben McLaughlin, took away his badge. He had a DA investigator go out that morning, take away his badge. He jumped in the murder case. That murder case, he did not get a victory. And you know what the jury said about him? Right in print. In the Times Standard. Of course, you can't believe everything you read. But this, I believe, they said he was the most unprepared, unprofessional, inept lawyer, prosecutor they had ever seen. Plus, I have sources of information there. They said a lot worse, but that's what they printed. Now I'm thinking the people deserve better. I'm part of the people. I've got 42 years in the criminal arena, 20 years as a defense attorney, 20 years as a prosecutor in 4 different counties. I can bring innovation, new ideas. I can protect the accused because of my criminal law experience. I can protect the public, the citizens, and I can somehow bring justice here. I know that the whole thing, you wouldn't rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. You got to slash it, burn it all down, and start new. Then when I saw Alon Firpo give away a case to somebody she goes surfing with, this was horrible. Here's some lady. And she's out on her OR, right, own recognizance, and she's out on a DUI, driving on she's going down Broadway here in Eureka at 91 miles per hour and faster. Behind her is the red light from the police vehicle, and coursing through her blood is over twice the limit of alcohol that the state sanctions, right? So that's like a 2.0. It's like actually a 1.16. It's twice as much, but this one was about a 2, right? Really bad. She crosses the line, the double yellow line, and she heads head-on, kills a woman who's a mother, destroys the husband's life physically, and a daughter now doesn't have 2 functioning parents. And she gave that away as vehicular manslaughter. And you know what she did? She exacerbated her ignorance, because she only had 3 years experience back then, right? By going in the paper the next day saying, I would have had to have proved that she, the defendant, woke up that morning and intended to kill somebody in order to get a murder. She doesn't even know what the law is. There are legions of cases that if you do something like that, that's murder. That's not manslaughter. So the fact is, nobody was there. Anybody with experience has moved on or been shoved out, right? And the people they had there, I'll show you. You've never been to a DA's office, have you?
No.
All right. Picture this.
Okay.
So it's now around 12 o'clock. There's some young DA with maybe a year's experience, and he's on a push cart, big push cart. And in the push cart, he's not on it, he's pushing it, right? There are 6 buckets, plastic buckets. And each bucket is 20 to 30 cases. He's pushing all these cases to get into court on time. Secretaries are chasing him down saying, the judge wants to add this one and that one. And now this poor kid with hardly any training, he opens the courthouse door, right? He walks into the courtroom. The judge says, are you ready? Whether it be a lady or a man makes no difference. And of course, all they can do is say yes. And then they try to somehow promote justice. Well, you know that can't be done. I'm going to change all that.
How?
Well, first of all, there hasn't been a change in the budget for over 8 years. Oh, you got that stern look on your face.
Well, I'm
Come
listening.
on.
When you said money, I'm
God.
like,
All right.
come on over
Well,
here.
all right.
Budget. What?
Well, normally when I hear money, I smile, but it's just
what?
a
Come
different reaction, right? All right. So where do we leave? Oh, it was that frown that got me. How am I going to do it? All right. There's been no budget presented to the Board of Supervisors for 8 years. How do I know? I've gone out to lunch with every one of them.
8 years?
8 years. What
How
Paul
does
would
that
do?
happen? Yeah.
Well, it's what we call, what Alon Firpo calls benign neglect. That's how she can't say he's a horrible manager. She's still working for him. And she is his anointed successor. He's even got posters up in Garberville. I'm going to introduce her to you. Anyway, forget it. How does it happen, right?
Yeah.
It happens that you get a general budget, right? He didn't go in. He didn't have a breakdown of cases and costs or anything. He'd walk in there and he'd say, I need 8 new DAs, and he'd walk out with half a paralegal. Then he'd come down to the attorney meeting and say, they wouldn't give us anything. We're going to have to hold the fort the way we do. And then he'd be quoted in the paper saying, I broke the backs of my people. Here's what you need to do. First of all, you have to educate the Board of Supervisors as to the cost of crime. The cost of crime is to our community. It's not just one victim who's been hit over the head and might have to go to the hospital. It's his wife. Or it might be a woman, in that case, the husband. You got the family, you got employers, you have doctors, you have cops. All these people factor in, and if it goes to court, then you have juries.
Yeah.
And you have a judge and a court reporter and a clerk and a bailiff. Think of the cost of all that.
Yeah.
And they're saying you don't need any more money, it's just a little bucket. We give you money, but we don't care how the DA's office runs the court because we just fund it. Well, we have like 1/3 less funding than Lake County, which is much smaller than us. 1/3 less funding than Mendocino County. They have like 18 DAs, both of those counties, and we only have like 9, but they've added 3 more people with 1 year's experience in the last maybe 6 months, so they could say they have 12. But at any rate, what you do is you go to the Board of Supervisors. You say, this is the cost of crime. The people care we're getting killed out here. If you don't give me a larger budget, and then I'd present them the budget, right? And you get bookkeepers to do that, and you get accountants, and you do some kind of budget makeup, and you show a PowerPoint, just like in the movies, right?
Yeah.
All right. And then if they can't see that we need more money to protect the people here, because that's what it's about, public safety and protection. If they can't see that the next day, I'm going out on the courthouse steps. I'm going to hold a press conference. I'm going to say, the Board of Supervisors, well, it's actually down there, not up there. The Board of Supervisors, they don't care about you. They won't give us the money to do our job. And as a result, I'm going to have to do legal triage. You know, I was a medic, and at Fort Sam Houston, they taught you triage. Here's what triage is. I'm sure you know. But
I know about triage.
But a lot of people might not know. All right, so people are going to die, right? You put them in a corner. Nothing you can do about them.
Yeah.
Some people, they don't need treatment right away. They wait. And the ones in the middle, right? The ones in the middle, those are the ones that, in terms of law and file, those are the ones that need to be buttressed up so that they can be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. And how do you do that? Well, first, you get more DAs than investigators.
Okay.
And because it all came out of a general budget. He elected to go law enforcement with the DA investigators instead of hiring more DAs. He wanted, there was an email that said he was going to spend $80,000 on a new carpet. How do you feel about that? And I said at one of the Tea Party things, I said, that just means you can sweep more cases under a newer carpet. I mean, let's get real, right? So where we left off is I want to get more DAs. When a case comes in, it's going to be accountability, and you're going to be responsible. I'm going to give you the case. You're licensed to practice law. My door is open. Come to me. I've got 42 years experience.
Right.
Plus, I'm going to bring in 3 people who have done death penalty cases like me on both sides.
Okay.
I'm going to bring in experienced people. They've signed on the line. They said, I'll help you, if nothing else, for a transitional thing. Because they believe in me, I believe in them.
Okay.
So we're going to have experience. Then you're going to have tip of the sword. We're going to bring people in here so they can get mentored and they can learn. But getting back to the filing purpose, where the first step is, you can't file political cases or clunkers and put them in a system. They destroy people's lives. That's why the DA is the most powerful man in Humboldt County. He has the power by
Well, you're the
taking
top
out a
lawyer.
pen. No, he can take out a pen. You don't want me to show this pen, but all right. He can either sign on a thing which says filed or reject. Now, how much power is that? It means I can step out tomorrow and prosecute you. Just because I can make anything up and just sign a sheet of paper. Now that's destroyed your life, your reputation, your ability to make a living. That's very powerful. That's why I say when I'm part of the people and I know about empathy, I know about understanding, because I've been an underdog all my life, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try and restore justice. Anyway, getting back to say those are the faces that you need. Now, when it's a case of import, say a murder, it comes in, you talk to your experienced people. I mean, there must be some. Alon Firpel's got 4.5 years experience, and she considers herself the senior trial DA there. Now, give me a break. She's never even done a murder case. I'm not trying to put her down. It's not her fault. But that's all she has. So she can talk about her 20 years experience in electronics or whatever. It has nothing to do with what happens in a courtroom, what happens in a law office. Management style is knowing your product and shaping your product and bringing it to the people, that being the jury, and winning. It's not hard to pursue justice in an ethical manner if you know what you're doing. So you marry this DA investigator, and you take them off these police raids that are designed to make money. You put them together with a DA. You say, this is your case. I want to know by every 30 days what you're doing. And before you ever dispose this case, they like to use the word plea bargain. It sounds like some kind of Persian bazaar or something, doesn't it? I like to call it a negotiated case settlement agreement. It should have some dignity, because you just don't give cases away or bargain cases. And the only reason you'd give them away if you couldn't prove them. If you can prove somebody's guilty of murder, oh, geez, we're running out of time.
Almost. But
So I really enjoyed this.
I did too.
And I wish we had another half hour, but we manage with the resources that we have, right, Denise?
Right. Yes, we
Okay.
do.
All right.
Yes, we do. Now, it give you a little opportunity to say something you have yet to say to the people.
Well, June 3rd is the most important day in the primaries. I hope and know you'll vote for me. Here's why. I have this fear that democracy, the bastion of democracy, is the election process. I have this fear it's been stolen from us, that our voices will never be heard, because if it's a function of money and it's a function of signs, nobody like me will ever be able to compete. I hope you hear my voice. I hope my words have the ring of truth, and I hope you'll vote for me. What I hope most of all is you just don't count the number of signs and vote. Be informed. Go to the state bar. Check out every candidate. They'll tell you when they started. Firpel started in 2008. I started when we were writing on legal tablets without computers. And it will show you that no one's ever complained about me. Not one judge, not one person, not one lawyer, not one anybody has ever complained at a state bar about me. Go look up there, and it's going to blow your hair back, because there's lots of things you're going to learn.
Well, thank you, Arnie, for coming.
It was such a pleasure.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have all of his contact information on the during the credits. Take a look. As he says, be informed. Vote June 3rd. You've been watching Out Here in the Redwoods. I'm Denise Riles with Arnie Klein. Aloha means hello and goodbye. See you next time.
This episode of Out Here in the Redwoods has been brought to you by Uniquely Yours Catering, a full-service caterer providing all the staff, serviceware, and dinnerware for small, intimate dinners of 20 or sit-down dinners for 600. Contact Elizabeth Adams at 834-2732 for more information. And the Costume Box, meeting all of your various costume needs from theatrical to masquerade to theme parties. Open 1 p.m. to 5:30, Monday through Friday, and 11 a.m. to 5 on Saturdays. They can be reached at 707-443-5200.